Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're returning, if you're new, welcome for the first time. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that has helped me out a lot in my life, and that is getting over this belief that I have to think all of the time. I honestly think that we're living in our headspaces way too much. I don't think we were designed to be in the headspace as much as we tend to be in the headspace, because the thing with the headspace, and when I say headspace, what I'm referring to is the analytical thinking mind. When we're thinking too much, we tend to, that's overthinking. And what happens is we're out of the present moment. We're either in the past or in the future, and we're not here and we're not in the now. In the present moment, the ever present moment, the eternal now is where God is. It's where the flow is. It's where life is. It's where reality is. So if you're out of that, if your awareness, if your mind is in the past or in the future, or if it's just like I said, in this cycle of overthinking, you're going to feel stressed out. You're going to feel out of alignment. You're going to feel lost. You're going to feel like you're living in this fog. And that is what is preventing you from actually experiencing what you want to experience in your life. Why? Because if you're not in the present moment, you're not going to be living from your being. You're not going to be living authentically. You're going to be living in this reality, in this realm that doesn't even exist really, because the past and the future, they don't exist. The only thing that is the now. The past is a mental construct. It's a thought that you're having or a memory that you're having right here, right now. And the future is some kind of anticipation or expectation that's occurring in the now. You can't go into the future. You can't go into the past. So everything is always happening in the now. Again, if you're in the future or in the past because of overthinking, because of being in the headspace too much, you're not living in reality. You're not living in what is. And so that's where the magic is. When you're in the present moment, when you're in a flow state. Now think about what happens when you're in a flow state. When you're in a flow state, you're not thinking. You're just being, and there's just this flow. There's this river that's pouring out of you. And that's why, like with athletes, they say they perform the best when they're in a flow state. Same thing with musicians. Same thing with artists, with all these different people who have these different things that they are experiencing life through in these high ways. If you ask any one of them, like, what's your secret? Like, how do you do what you do? How do you experience these amazing things? And how do you just like express and embody your talents in such a divine way? They'll all say the same thing. It's being in the flow. And what they'll say about the flow state is that they're not having to like really try to do whatever they're doing. It's just a byproduct. It's just an expression of them trusting and flowing with the Tao of life. And to me, that's such a beautiful thing because, again, the mind is useful. It's helpful. We obviously need it for certain things like solving problems or, having conversations or, figuring out whatever. Like the mind has its place and its time. But again, we're not designed to live there all of the time. I believe we're designed to be rooted and grounded in our heart space. When we're in our heart space, that is synonymous with being in the now, because the heart only knows the now. And if you think about it, some of the most memorable times of your life where, you were with people that you love, and maybe it was some important moment in your life, like the birth of your child or your wedding or some kind of big party or just whatever, like something that you were participating in, like a concert, and whatever it is. If you think about the most important, memorable moments of your life, what you'll notice is in these moments, you were fully present. You were here now. And the reason those moments were so spectacular and memorable was not because of necessarily what was happening, but because you were fully there when those things were happening. You were fully in the present moment. That's what made the difference. And so in those moments, especially like the heartfelt moments, you're in your heart space. You're in your body, you're feeling, and there's these emotions that are arising, and they're helping you connect with whatever it is that's occurring in the present moment. And it's a really amazing thing. And that's what I'm talking about. So it's making that shift from the headspace to the heart space where we start to ground ourselves. We start to live primarily from the heart space, and then we use the mind when we need to use the mind. But for the most part, we're living from the heart space. And when you start to live from the heart space, primarily, you'll start to notice that you start to walk in this compassion, in this kindness, in this love, in this understanding. And you start to see yourself and others completely differently in this new profound way of oneness. And it's an amazing thing. It's a beautiful way to live. And this is something that we all have access to. This is something that we were designed for, I believe. So think about that and meditate on it, because the more you start to shift into the ground of being, into the heart space, into the now, all of a sudden you'll start to notice that river of life. You'll start to notice that flow. You'll start to be at ease. And this is when you're at your best, because you're operating and functioning according to your divine design. So don't think that I am demonizing the mind. I'm not saying that the analytical thinking mind is bad or negative. I'm just saying that we have to put it in its proper place. I'm just saying that we have to analyze where our awareness is going throughout the day. And we have to ask ourselves, are we spending too much time in the headspace, and are we overthinking? And the way you can really discover that is simply by meditating, because what meditating will do is, especially in the beginning of meditation, it will show you where your mind is most active, especially if you start meditating and you feel like your mind is all over the place and you can't just be still and it's taking you forever to get into that inner stillness. That's a sign that your mind is just too distracted and that you've been in your headspace too much. And so, now you're meditating and the mind feels like this is such a foreign place, because the mind doesn't know stillness, and it's been so used to go, go, go and just never stopping. And there's this continuous mental chatter, and it's just one thing after the next. And so when you try to present stillness or silence to that kind of overactive mind, typically you're met with resistance. And that's why a lot of people start out with meditating, and they'll start and they feel like it's not for them, because they feel like they can't break past that initial barrier of the analytical thinking mind. And they say the mind is too distracting, and they say that, it's just impossible for them to get into their heart space, and they feel like it's just meditation's not for them, which isn't true. It's just that their minds are not used to what they're putting their minds through in that moment of meditation. And there's different ways that you can actually transcend this and get around it. And I've talked about this in many other videos that I've made on meditation. So if you're interested in meditation, I also coach meditation. So if you would like a coach, I do one-on-one coaching with meditation, and I've seen incredible results with many clients. And if you're interested in that, all the information for that is in the description below this video. Anyway, so meditation will show you kind of where your mind has been. And this isn't a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's just what it is. And the thing about it is, we live in a world that makes it really easy for us to be extremely distracted and addicted to all these things that don't really matter, because of being on our phones so much, because of social media, because of the news, because of the mainstream narratives, and because of all these things, this continuous noise and information. We live in a society, we live in a world that has tons of information that is being thrown at us all day long. Like I said, especially if you're on social media all day and you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, that in and of itself becomes an addiction of the mind. And guess what? The blue light that is coming off your screen, the artificial blue light, is making the addiction even worse. So if that's the case, if that's where the majority of your time is going throughout the day, then it's going to be hard at first to actually get what I'm saying and to move past that limitation of being caught in the headspace, in the analytical thinking mind, the majority of the day. Okay? So there's simple things, there's little things you can start doing, like having some kind of meditation practice daily in the mornings to really set your day and ground you. And then you go from there, and you notice the more you just start meditating, and you know what, you're going to sit there for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and you're not going to expect to go into samadhi the first, or even like the first 20 times you do this. No, that you're not trying to experience some kind of supernatural experience of transcendence or a mystical experience. You have to throw that out the window as far as expectations go when you first start this. No, you're just sitting there for 10 minutes, like I said, or even 5 minutes. And the whole purpose of what you're doing is simply to be aware of your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, the sensations that arise in your body. You're just being aware. You're not trying to control your thoughts. You're not trying to not think. You're just sitting there being aware. And what that is going to start doing for you, it is going to start training your mind how to be still. And it's going to show you that you have thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. You have feelings, but you are not your feelings. You have emotions, but you are not your emotions. It's going to show you that you are the witness. You are the pure awareness that is sitting back, just simply watching. And the more you sit back in this pure awareness, which is synonymous with being, which is synonymous with the heart space, to me at least, the more you keep doing this and sitting back and relaxing and resting and letting go and just watching your thoughts, not trying to like really control them, the more they'll start to dissipate. Slowly but surely, they'll start to fade away. And then you'll notice that your meditation practice of just being the witness and sitting and relaxing and just being, that will start to carry over into your day. After you just sat there for 10 minutes in the morning and did your little meditation practice, that will just carry over into the day. And you'll start to notice that it's a lot easier to be grounded in your being. And one of the main ways you'll notice this, one of the key ways you'll notice this, is with these certain things that come up in your life, right? So maybe you go to work and someone says something that triggers you. And when this happens, if you're living in the headspace, if you're living in the egoic mind, like typically you would react from this place of the ego, from this place of like, anger maybe or whatever, and you'll end up saying something or doing something that you'll regret later. But if you're in the heart space, if you're grounded and you're just living from being and you're not overthinking, and someone says something to you, it's going to be like you're going to, okay, hear it, and then you're going to let it go. You're not going to let it get to you. You're not going to let it cause you to do something from the ego that is not out of love and awareness and the true self, right? So it's a profound shift, but what happens is you go from reacting from the ego because you're living in your analytical thinking mind too much, to responding from this place of grace and tranquility and compassion from the heart. And it's automatic, like, you know what? There's this, so what it is, it's actually, and the more you're in the now, the more you're in being, the more you'll get these little intuitive insights, and you'll know in that moment, okay, the only reason this person is saying whatever they're saying to try to like get in my head, to try to trigger me, is because their judgment is a reflection of a part of them that hasn't been healed. So they're actually like revealing to you where they're not healed, where they still need to do inner work or whatever. And so, you know, that's what's going on. Like they're doing and saying whatever they're doing and saying out of this place of unconsciousness and out of this place of being hurt, in the way that, like, when we have these things that aren't healed within us, especially if like we're judging ourselves for things and we're judging or repressing these parts of us that we are not accepting, what happens is the way we subconsciously deal with these things is we project them, and that is through the form of judgment. So your judgments are always expressions of that which you are judging yourself for, or not accept, the parts of you that you're not accepting and you're not embracing and you're not loving. You judge that in other people. So your judgments, and by the way, your judgments will cause these certain patterns in your life to keep coming into your life. because whatever you're judging, you're attracting until you learn, until you understand that the thing that you're judging someone else for externally is just a reflection of the part of you that needs healing. So you like when someone is trying to really, like I said, trigger you or push your buttons or whatever through some form of judgment, you know in that moment that that's actually what's going on. So there's like this profound sense of grace and understanding and mercy that you respond with towards that person, because you know that they don't know and they need healing. It's like when Jesus is being crucified on the cross and he says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Like that's the kind of consciousness that it just arises in those moments if you're living from being, if you're grounded in your heart center. So this is how meditation can absolutely change your life, because it changes your state of being to where you are living from being, you're present, you're in the now. And the other thing is, it's going to start to enable you to walk in this way of like creativity and flow, and you're going to get so much more done. You're going to be so much more productive. And these insights are going to come, these ideas and this passion, this excitement, this bliss for life. Like this all arises from just being grounded, having self-compassion, which, by the way, this is a key. If you want to stay in your heart center, if you want to stay living from being, you have to have self-compassion, because what happens is when you're in your heart center and you're living from your being, the mind will try to get you out of your heart center. It's going to try to get you into the doing mode. And the way it will do this is through the ego, through the form of the inner critic, so self-judgment. But again, the way you transcend judgment is always unconditional love. I believe that the opposite of unconditional love is not fear. I believe it's judgment. So when you can start to have unconditional love for yourself, which will then carry over into having unconditional love for others, then all of a sudden it's like it's incredible. I can't even describe it, but your divine essence is now shining so brightly that it's like there's nothing anyone can say or do that would offend you, because you're just unconditional, infinite love. Your divinity is all that there is, and the ego at this point is just like dissolved. And I'm not saying you're going to stay in that state of awareness all of the time while you're in this earth school, because you won't. You're going to keep coming back into your ego to learn more lessons, because that's part of this curriculum. That's part of this earth school that we're in. Souls come to this planet, they come to this realm, earth school, to learn and evolve. Okay, so you're going to keep experiencing these different dualities and these different polarities and these different challenges for the sole purpose of your soul's transcendence. So keep that in mind. But I think that one of the biggest lessons to be learned while we're here on this earth school is beingness, and getting out of the illusion of having to do and strive. And, there's so many different, like I said, there's so many different moments of our lives where this is very evident, because being in a flow state is a byproduct of being and being, not overthinking, not being in the analytical thinking mind too much, but you're being and being. When you're being and being, you will enter into a flow state, and no matter what you're doing, you could be writing, you could be playing a sport, you could be dancing, you could be teaching, you could be doing anything. There's just going to be this immaculate, graceful flow that's just coming out of you, and you're not going to have to think. And guess what? You're going to perform, or whatever you're doing, you're going to perform and produce and create in a supernatural, divine way that totally transcends the ego and like this doing mentality and this, I've got to work super hard and strive for it and earn for it. No, you're going to transcend that level of consciousness, which, by the way, that level of consciousness is like one of the lower levels of consciousness, believe it or not. But when you start to transcend into these higher levels of consciousness, all of a sudden it's like you see that, okay, this game is designed to teach me that It's not about the more I do and the more I think and the more I strive, the more I'll get. No, it's actually the opposite. The more I let go, the more I surrender to the flow, the more I dance with the rhythm of life, the more I start to walk in my manifestation, the more I start to walk in the abundance, in the love, in the fulfillment, and all the things that just come from being and being. So you don't have to think as much as you think. Use the mind as a tool. You'll need it, trust me. But don't worship it. Don't be there all the time. Be grounded in your being and flow with life. Flow with the rhythm, with the Tao. And you'll be amazed at how fun this ride can be. This ride of life can be pretty incredible, beyond anything you can think or imagine. But the question is, will you surrender? Will you let go? Will you forgive? Will you release? Will you be open-minded? Will you be curious? Will you say yes? And will you trust? Those are the questions, not just a question, but those are the questions that you can contemplate and ask yourself. Because that's going to determine whether or not you experience reality or not. Remember, reality is only right here, right now, in the now. Everything else is an illusion. So yeah, I think that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, informative, or insightful, please leave a thumbs up at the bottom of the screen. And be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.